Have you ever experienced that gut-wrenching moment when someone who seemed irreplaceable, who held everything together, suddenly walks away? It's like the ground beneath you starts to crumble, and the stability you once took for granted vanishes in an instant. The emotional chaos that follows can feel overwhelming, like everything you thought was secure is now in pieces. But what if this departure, this feeling of loss, isn't the end? What if it's a sign that something even greater is on the horizon, waiting for you to discover? In the most heartbreaking moments, there's an opportunity for powerful transformation, a chance to rebuild from a place of newfound strength and clarity. Let's dive into why the departure of the chosen one might just be the catalyst you need for a profound awakening, and how you can rise from the ashes stronger than ever. The concept of the chosen one. The chosen one is someone whose presence in our lives feels like a constant, an unshakable anchor in a world full of chaos. This person could be a partner, a mentor, a close friend, or even a family member. Someone whose role is so deeply intertwined with our sense of self that their absence feels unimaginable. They are the ones we turn to for advice, reassurance, and comfort. The person who helps us navigate the rough waters of life. Imagine them as the sturdy tree in the middle of a stormy forest, offering shelter from the rain and wind. Their stability and unwavering support give us a sense of security that everything will be okay, even when the world around us is in turmoil. The qualities that make the chosen one central to the dynamic are often subtle yet profound. They are not just anyone we interact with. They possess a unique energy, a magnetic pull that makes us feel safe and understood. They have the ability to see through our facades, recognizing our fears and dreams even when we try to hide them. In moments of doubt, they are the steady voice that brings clarity, offering guidance like a compass, pointing us in the right direction. Emotional stability is one of their most precious gifts. They have a calming presence that soothes our troubled hearts, helping us to find balance in the midst of emotional storms. When we're overwhelmed with life's challenges, they are the rock we lean on, offering support that feels limitless. Whether it's a comforting hug or wise counsel, their role is to help us regain our strength and keep moving forward. Psychologically, the attachment we develop toward this person is deeper than we often realize. It's like we've woven a part of our identity into theirs. We begin to rely on them in ways that go beyond physical presence. They become woven into our inner fabric. Their words become the guiding principles by which we measure our decisions, and their approval or disapproval carries weight far beyond mere opinion. The bond we share is not just emotional, but psychological. It's almost as if they are an extension of ourselves. This attachment can create an unspoken expectation that they will always be there, like the sun that rises every morning. We don't question their presence because we assume they will always provide the emotional nourishment we need. In a way, we begin to see them as an unmovable fixture in our lives, a permanent support system that we can always count on. This attachment to the chosen one can be so strong that their departure, whether through distance, change, or loss, shakes us to our core. We don't just miss them. We feel like a part of us is gone, leaving an empty space where their presence once lived. The very thought that they might not be there forever disrupts the delicate balance we've created. It's as though a vital thread in the tapestry of our lives has been pulled out, and we're left with a gaping hole that we struggle to fill. The psychological expectation of their permanence makes the eventual loss all the more jarring. When they leave, it's not just the end of a relationship. It feels like the end of an entire chapter of who we are, leaving us grappling with the idea that perhaps, just perhaps, nothing in life is as permanent as we once thought. The psychological impact of their absence. When the chosen one leaves, it feels like the world has been flipped upside down. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, the wind howling and the rain pouring down, and suddenly the very foundation beneath you cracks and gives way. The ground that once felt steady now feels uncertain, and you're left standing in the rubble, unsure of what to do next. Emotionally, the absence of this person can create a whirlwind of chaos that sweeps through your mind and heart. It's as if a light that once guided you through the darkest of times has been snuffed out, leaving you fumbling in the dark, trying to find your way back to stability. There's a deep, almost visceral sense of abandonment, like a child reaching for a parent who's no longer there to hold their hand. You might feel like a ship adrift in an endless ocean, with no compass or direction, as if the person who once anchored you to the world has sailed away, leaving you to face the unknown alone. Confusion becomes a constant companion in these moments. You question everything: your choices, your self-worth, and your purpose. The person who once seemed like the steady thread holding your life together is now gone, and you wonder how you ever managed to navigate life without them. It's as if your mental compass has stopped working, and you're caught in a fog of uncertainty, unsure of what to do or where to go. Every decision feels weighty, and nothing seems clear anymore. You start to wonder if you ever truly knew who you were without them, or if they were the lens through which you saw the world. The confusion can feel paralyzing, as though you're stuck in a maze with no way out. This sense of loss is not just emotional. It spills into every aspect of your life. It's as if the very pillars that once held up your world begin to crumble. Relationships that felt solid now seem fragile, like houses made of sand instead of brick. You might find yourself questioning the authenticity of those around you, wondering if they too might slip away. Your confidence, once built on the belief that you were supported by this constant presence, now feels shaky, like a tower of cards ready to topple. The sense of security that the chosen one provided has disappeared, and in its place, you're left with a raw vulnerability that exposes your deepest fears. It's as though your life plans, carefully constructed over time, are now in disarray. The future that once seemed clear and filled with possibilities suddenly feels foggy, and the path forward seems less certain. Where you once felt sure of the direction you were headed, now you feel lost, as if you're walking through a thick forest with no clear trail to follow. The emotional impact of their absence doesn't just shake your foundation, it challenges your entire worldview. It makes you question what you thought was permanent and forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth that nothing in life is guaranteed. You begin to realize that all the things you thought would last forever, relationships, dreams, and even your sense of self, can change in an instant. And with that realization comes the painful acceptance that the only thing truly permanent is change itself. The ripple effect of loss. When one key person leaves, the ripple effect is felt far beyond just the individual experiencing the loss. It's as if they are the heart of a vast web, and when they are no longer there, the entire structure begins to tremble. Imagine a single thread being pulled from a delicate fabric. At first it seems like a small tear, but soon it unravels, causing a cascade of changes that stretch across the entire weave. In a family, this could mean the loss of the person who held everyone together, the one who was the glue binding different personalities and roles into a harmonious whole. When they're gone, the balance shifts, the dynamics change, and suddenly, everyone feels the absence like an unfilled space at the dinner table. Conversations may falter, traditions may feel incomplete, and the emotional center of the family feels distant. Relationships that were once comfortable can feel strained as everyone tries to find their new place in the absence of this person who once anchored them. Similarly, in a workplace, the departure of a key individual can send shockwaves throughout the team. Think of the team as a well-oiled machine. Each person plays a specific role, and when one cog is removed, the machine begins to falter. The person who left may have been the one who bridged gaps, kept things running smoothly, or provided the emotional support that helped the team thrive. With them gone, tension builds as others try to fill their shoes, but no one can quite replicate their presence. Projects may stall, morale may drop, and the sense of unity that once existed may begin to disintegrate. Like a puzzle, with a missing piece that no one can quite locate. Each missing piece leaves the whole system feeling incomplete, as if something vital is missing, but no one can pinpoint exactly what it is. There's a sense of collective unease, an unspoken understanding that something is off, but no clear way to fix it. In friendship circles, the absence of one key individual can be equally profound. Friendships often operate like a circle, where each person brings their unique energy to the group. When one person steps away, the balance shifts, the dynamic changes, and there's an uncomfortable emptiness that settles in. Perhaps they were the one who always made everyone laugh, or the one who kept the group connected. Their absence leaves a space that can't easily be filled, and without them, the group feels less complete, like a puzzle with a missing piece. The remaining members might find themselves subconsciously trying to take on new roles, but the group feels different. Conversations may lack the same spark, and the flow of energy may feel disrupted, as if something fundamental is missing. The group isn't broken, but it's undeniably altered, like a song that loses its melody when the harmony disappears. Grieving the loss. Grieving the loss of the chosen one is a journey through a landscape of deep emotions, each stage a wave that crashes over you, reshaping the shore of your heart. The first stage, denial, feels like a fog that rolls in suddenly, blurring reality. It's as if the loss hasn't happened at all, and you keep expecting to see them walk through the door or hear their voice call your name. You might convince yourself that they're just temporarily out of reach, like the sun hidden behind a cloud, certain that it will reappear. But no matter how hard you try to hold on to that hope, the reality begins to seep in, and the fog starts to lift, revealing the emptiness where they once stood. This realization often gives way to anger, a sharp, biting feeling that cuts through everything in its path. You might feel angry at the person for leaving, at yourself for not doing more, or even at the world for taking them away too soon. It's as if you've been blindsided, like a sudden storm that uproots everything in its wake, leaving destruction and confusion. Anger can feel like a fire that consumes you, making it hard to think straight or see beyond the rage. Next comes bargaining, a stage where you try to make deals with the universe or with yourself, hoping that by doing so, you can reverse the situation. You might promise to be a better person or vow to change something fundamental about yourself just to have them back. It's like trying to trade a cherished memory for a moment in time, hoping that if you do the right things, the impossible will become possible. But no matter how many bargains you strike, the reality remains unchanged, and this can lead to a deep sense of depression, a heavy, suffocating feeling like the weight of the world is pressing down on your chest. In this stage, everything feels like it's in slow motion, as if you're trudging through mud with every step. The world outside seems distant, disconnected, and nothing brings you joy. It's as if the light that once illuminated your life has been extinguished, leaving you groping for meaning in a place that feels cold and unfamiliar. The sadness is so thick that it wraps around you, making it hard to breathe or move forward. Finally, there's acceptance, but even this stage isn't a clean, neat ending. It's more like learning to live with a scar, one that may fade over time, but will always be there. A reminder of the love and loss you've experienced. Acceptance doesn't mean you're over it. It simply means you've learned to carry the grief like a heavy bag that you no longer try to set down, but instead learn to bear with strength. This journey through grief can be long-lasting, with waves that come unexpectedly, even years after the loss. You may find yourself mourning the absence of the chosen one at milestones or quiet moments when you least expect it. The grief doesn't always follow a linear path, and sometimes it can feel like you're moving backwards, reliving the stages again. Coping with such a profound loss is complicated, like trying to put together a shattered mirror. Each fragment is unique, and no matter how hard you try, it's impossible to restore it to its original form. Yet with time, you learn to adjust, to find ways to live with the loss while honoring the space the chosen one once held in your life. The illusion of dependence. When the chosen one is a constant in your life, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your emotional and mental well-being is tied to their presence. This person often feels like a beacon of stability, offering a sense of safety and comfort. It's like having a lighthouse in the middle of a stormy ocean, guiding you through turbulent waters with their steady light. Their support becomes a foundation you think you can't live without, and in doing so, you begin to unconsciously surrender your own strength to them. You lean on them so heavily that it's as if your emotional balance is no longer in your hands, but in theirs. The illusion that they are the source of your stability builds over time, and you forget that your own resilience is just as capable of weathering storms. This dependence, while seemingly harmless at first, begins to cloud your own ability to cope with life's challenges. It's like a crutch that you lean on so long that your legs start to weaken, and before you realize it, you've forgotten how to stand on your own. Every time a problem arises, you instinctively turn to the chosen one for guidance or support, as if their presence is the only thing that can solve your problems. You no longer trust yourself to find your way, believing that without them, you'll be lost. In this way, the chosen one becomes more than just a source of support. They become a symbol of security, making it harder to tap into your own emotional resources. The belief that you need them to function becomes ingrained, and in this false sense of security, you lose sight of the strength you hold within. When the chosen one leaves, it's as if the ground beneath you suddenly vanishes. The sense of loss is overwhelming, and the world seems to spin out of control, as if the very foundation of your life has been pulled away. The absence forces you to face the raw truth. You've relied too much on someone else to carry the weight of your emotional well-being. It's like being forced to swim when you've only known the comfort of floating. At first it feels impossible, and the water feels too cold, too deep. But with time, you begin to realize that you have the capacity to swim, because in truth, you always have. This painful awakening is a reminder that while the chosen one may have provided comfort, the strength to navigate life has always been within you, waiting to be discovered. In the aftermath of this loss, a powerful shift begins to occur. The absence of the chosen one becomes a mirror, reflecting the need for self-reliance and personal growth. It's like stepping into a garden that has been neglected, only to find that with a little care, it can bloom once again. You begin to see that your own emotional stability doesn't have to come from someone else's reassurance, but from your ability to face fear, pain, and uncertainty with courage. Slowly, you rebuild the belief in yourself that had been buried under layers of dependency. You find that your own inner strength is not only sufficient, but also empowering. What once felt like a crumbling foundation becomes a strong, solid base as you learn to trust your own instincts and rely on your own resilience. This journey is a process of rediscovery, where you realize that you've always had the tools to stand tall. You just needed to trust yourself enough to use them. The hidden blessing in the pain. When we experience loss, it often feels like a storm tearing through our lives, leaving everything in disarray. The pain is sharp, like a sudden wave crashing against the shore, pulling everything into the depths. But what if, in that very pain, there's a hidden blessing waiting to be uncovered? While loss can feel overwhelming at first, it has a unique way of becoming a catalyst for change, pushing us to transform in ways we never expected. It's like the moment a caterpillar sheds its cocoon, vulnerable and uncertain. But in that very act, it begins its journey into becoming a butterfly. In the same way, breakdowns can lead to breakthroughs, with the painful experience becoming the first step toward discovering inner resilience and strength. At first, the emotional turbulence that follows the loss of the chosen one might feel unbearable, as though the foundation of your life has crumbled beneath you. But in time, this breakdown can awaken dormant parts of you, hidden strengths you never knew you had. It's like digging in the soil and finding that beneath the surface, there's a treasure chest waiting to be unearthed. When everything you thought was stable falls away, you're forced to face the truth that your strength was never external. It was always within you. As painful as it might seem, this realization becomes the seed for personal growth. And what once felt like destruction can evolve into a powerful opportunity for transformation. Many people have experienced the profound shift that comes after the chosen one leaves, emerging from the wreckage of their grief, more capable, more grounded, and more in touch with their true selves. Take, for example, someone who has spent years relying on a partner for emotional stability. When that person is no longer there, the world can seem bleak, and they may initially feel lost. But over time, they begin to find their own voice, rediscover their passions, and tap into strengths they had long buried under layers of dependency. It's as though they've been thrust into the fire, only to emerge as something stronger and more refined, like gold purified by flames. Another example could be someone who has lost a mentor or guide, someone who they believed held the key to their future. The absence of that figure initially feels like a gaping hole, a loss of direction. Yet, as they navigate the pain, they learn to trust their own instincts, to become their own guide. They begin to understand that the wisdom they sought from others was something they could cultivate within themselves. It's like a child learning to walk. At first they stumble, unsure of their steps, but eventually they find their balance and move forward with a confidence they didn't know they had. Transformation and rebirth. The power of rebuilding. The grieving process is often seen as a painful and uncharted journey, one that forces us to confront the depths of our emotions. Yet within this heart-wrenching experience lies an incredible power for transformation and rebirth. It's like a forest after a wildfire. At first it seems scorched and barren, but in time, new growth begins to sprout, bringing fresh life and strength to the land. Similarly, when we lose the chosen one, we enter a period of grief that might feel overwhelming. But as we navigate through the emotional turmoil, we begin to rebuild our lives in ways we never thought possible. The pain, though deep, serves as a fertile soil from which our inner strength, resilience, and growth begin to blossom. Rebuilding after such a loss isn't an easy task. It's like reconstructing a broken bridge. Each plank of support needs to be carefully placed, and the process takes time and patience. But as we work through our grief, we start to re-establish boundaries and reclaim the pieces of ourselves that may have been lost or overshadowed. Where once we may have leaned too heavily on the chosen one, we now find the courage to stand on our own. The absence creates a blank canvas, inviting us to paint a new picture of who we are and what we want from life. We begin to realize that the strength to rebuild lies within us, and through each step of the process, we uncover new layers of emotional and mental fortitude. As we rebuild, something incredible happens. The spaces once filled with dependency, uncertainty, or fear are now open to new possibilities and opportunities. It's like an old room being cleared of clutter, allowing fresh air and sunlight to flood in. The absence of the chosen one makes room for us to explore uncharted territories within ourselves, to expand into roles or passions we hadn't considered before. We discover a deeper sense of self, one that is independent, empowered, and resilient. This newfound space isn't just for growth, it's for reinvention. We begin to reshape our lives, to rediscover our passions, and to explore paths that had once seemed out of reach. The grief we once feared becomes a fertile ground for personal and spiritual growth, planting the seeds for a future that is brighter, more authentic, and more aligned with our true selves. In this process of transformation, we also learn the value of setting healthy boundaries. The chosen one may have been a source of comfort, but their absence teaches us the importance of safeguarding our emotional energy. It's like learning to protect the roots of a plant from the harsh winds. Once we understand our own needs and limits, we can nurture ourselves more effectively. As we rebuild, we gain emotional clarity and mental strength, and we begin to understand that true growth doesn't come from relying on others, but from looking within and honoring our own boundaries, desires, and dreams, finding new sources of guidance and support. When the chosen one leaves, the void they leave behind can feel enormous, like a vast, empty space in your heart that once radiated with their presence. But in this emptiness, something remarkable begins to unfold. It's like the moment a flower blooms in a garden after a long, harsh winter. Suddenly, new opportunities for growth appear where there was once only barren soil. As we move through the grief of losing the chosen one, we begin to see that there are other sources of guidance and support waiting to enter our lives. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, often sends new energies, new mentors, and new relationships that serve to guide us in ways we couldn't have imagined before. These new sources of inspiration aren't replacements. They are part of the larger plan, like new pieces of a puzzle, helping us to form a more complete picture of ourselves. The absence of the chosen one creates a space for something else to enter, and often, these new influences come when we least expect them. It's like a river that, after flooding, carves new channels through the landscape, allowing the water to flow in directions it never had before. These new mentors or relationships may not fill the same role as the chosen one, but they offer different kinds of wisdom, support, and insight. Perhaps a new friend comes into your life, someone who shares your passions and opens your mind to new perspectives. Or maybe you encounter a mentor who helps you develop skills and wisdom you never thought you had within you. These new connections serve as stepping stones that guide you along your path, leading you to places of self-discovery and deeper understanding. During this transition, something profound begins to happen. We start to reconnect with our own inner guidance. In the past, we may have relied too heavily on the chosen one for direction, like a sailor relying on a compass that always pointed north. But now, we find that the compass has always been within us. It's our intuition, our inner wisdom, waiting to be tapped into. This is a time to rediscover our connection to the divine, to listen more closely to the subtle whispers of our heart and soul. Just as the earth knows when to change its seasons, we too have an innate sense of when it's time to move forward, to evolve, and to embrace new directions. This phase of life asks us to trust our own instincts, to rely on the quiet but powerful voice within that has always been there, even if we were too distracted to hear it. The universe, in its subtle way, sends us these new forms of guidance when we need them most, and by embracing these new influences, we are not only healing, but evolving. It's like a bird learning to fly with a new set of wings after shedding its old feathers. As we learn to trust the guidance of new mentors, relationships, and our own intuition, we find that we are not adrift in a sea of uncertainty, but that we are navigating with a new sense of clarity and purpose. The absence of the chosen one becomes a gift in disguise, opening the door to new possibilities and, most importantly, to a deeper connection with ourselves and the universe around us.